Hello and good evening. My name is Dr. Teresa Cornicone, and I'm the Civic Engagement Coordinator here at the Bob Graham Center for Public Service. I would like to welcome you to Pugh Hall, Okora, which is the home of the Bob Graham Center. Okora is a native Timucuan word meaning place of gathering. And indeed, the late Senator Graham envisioned this space as a place for broader UF community to gather and engage. It has been my absolute pleasure to work with all of our partners on this program, especially our colleagues in the African American Studies Department, to bring you tonight's speaker. As we mark 20 years of the Graham Center, we continue preparing students for careers in civic engagement and public service. And tonight's conversation reflects that mission, bringing together students, faculty, and community members to discuss complex issues. As Senator Graham once said, democracy is not a spectator sport. And I think he would be thrilled with tonight's turnout to honor Dr. King's legacy and participate in a meaningful conversation about the challenges we face. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Drew Brown, Assistant Professor in African American Studies and Sociology. Dr. Brown is an expert on the intersection of Black culture and sports. Please join me in welcoming him to the stage.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good evening. Welcome everybody to the Martin Luther King Jr. Lecture Series with our guest speaker, Kathi Earles. It is an honor to see such a vibrant turnout here. And as we gather to celebrate the life, legacy, and the enduring work and vision of Dr. Martin Luther King, I want to say a few words about African American Studies. African American Studies program is a place that cultivates, supports, and encourages critical thought. It's a place that many of our students call home. Events like this, similar to the civil rights movement, don't just happen in a vacuum. They happen with a lot of work from many people in the community, and this program is no different. This program was possible because of different sponsors and organizations, and I wanted to give a thanks to them. So I want to thank our primary sponsors for this event, the College of Liberal Arts and Science, of course, the African American Studies program, and the Bob Graham Center for Public Service. But I also want to recognize the diverse group that helped co-sponsor this event, the Center for Arts, Migration, and Entrepreneurship, the Department of Anthropology, the Department of Chemistry, the Department of Sociology and Criminology and Law, Sustainability Studies, and UF Diabetes Institute. To all the students and the faculty and the staff and the community members who are here, I want to thank you for coming today and get prepared, settle in. You're about to hear from a great speaker, but as we listen to this speaker, I want us to remember that King was a man who spoke out against oppression. He fought against racial injustice, and he led one of the most significant movements in history. But to all the students specifically, King started his work when he was your age. He was a young person with courage and a vision. So as I look around at all the young people, I can't help but think that there might be somewhat of a King in this room. There might be some small part of him sitting right here. And so I hope that there's someone among you who's willing to speak out against injustice and inequality, who will stand up for what's right and change the course of history. And to them and the rest of you all, I say welcome to the program. I want to pass it on to the director of African American Studies program, Dr. Barnes.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. I am Dr. Rashay Barnes. I am Director of African American Studies here at the University of Florida. I am also Associate Professor of Anthropology, focusing on family, kinship, and the African diaspora broadly. I'm giving a bit of an occasion and also the introduction to our speaker, Dr. Earles. So we often reduce Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy to a box, a very large box, but a box nonetheless. He's known primarily for being the leader of the civil rights movement, although there were many. He was just one. And the long civil rights movement started way before he was even born. He is known for being nonviolent, even though that was a strategy to protect as many lives as possible in the US South, where lynching Black people without due process always went unpunished. And most noticeable or notable was probably his very famous dream, very good dream, where he stated, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And that one day little Black boys and Black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers." I would venture to say, as we celebrate what would have been his 97th birthday and almost 58 years after his death, Dr. King meant this to be more than a dream, perhaps a goal, that includes Black people and the many people of this nation who continue to be judged by the color of their skin and not the content of their character. A time when we all join hands as sisters, brothers, and siblings. Dr. King's dream was not limited to what some would now call the politics of race and ethnicity. Believe it or not, he was also concerned with issues pertaining to health equity and environmental justice. One example of this commitment was his support for the Memphis sanitation workers and public servant strike for better pay, safer working conditions, and union recognition. He saw it as part of his Poor People's Campaign to demand jobs, unemployment insurance, a fair minimum wage, and education for poor adults and children. In addition to civil rights, he believed true justice required clean air, water, and healthy environments for all. And he emphasized the fact that environmental burdens disproportionately affected marginalized communities. He stated repeatedly, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere," a principle extended to environmental concerns, viewing pollution and poor living conditions as extensions of racial and economic oppression, and saw the concept of environment as going beyond the wilderness to include the immediate surroundings where people live, work, and breathe, and then connecting it to public health and dignity. Today, his call to shift from a thing-oriented to a person-oriented society that focuses on communities resonates with calls from environmental justice groups for policies that prioritize human health and well-being over corporate profits, linking environmental protection to human rights. Dr. Kathi Earles is similarly oriented, having a little bit of King in her. Having dedicated her life to understanding and treating health disparities as a public health advocate and pediatrician, she has now turned her attention to our environment and the hidden harms that need to be exposed and addressed. Dr. Earles is a Howard University trained microbiologist and physician whose career reflects a powerful commitment to health equity and community-centered healing. She earned both her undergraduate degree and medical degree at Howard University before completing her pediatric residency at the University of California, Los Angeles, LA County, and her Master of Public Health at the University of California, Los Angeles. She later served as Associate Director of Pediatrics at Morehouse School of Medicine, where she built the pediatric curriculum from the ground up. She continues to be an active faculty member at the Morehouse School of Medicine as an adjunct faculty member in the Department of Pediatrics. She is a highly respected speaker, author, and educator on pediatric obesity and diabetes, and has a particular interest in health disparities impacting minority communities. She's board certified in both pediatrics and obesity medicine and has authored numerous publications, including Obesity in the Black Community, Weighing the Complexity Above Statistics. For 18 years, she worked as an executive obesity medical liaison at Novo Nordisk Incorporated, becoming a nationally recognized expert in obesity care. She's also an Atlanta Dream diehard fan exercise enthusiast, and determined gardener. Dr. Earles is a wife, mother of 3 adult children, and a rescue dog mom. And I have to give a shameless plug for our sorority and say she is also a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Now, for those who believe medicine can only be done through the sciences, I want you to know Dr. Earles is also a well-respected artist, specializing in ceramics, mixed media, and furniture. In fact, she designed the art for my first book, Raising the Race, Black Career Women Redefine Marriage, Motherhood, and Community. She is currently a Climate and Health Equity Fellow at George Mason University with the Medical Society Consortium on Climate Health, a partnership with the National Medical Association. This fellowship recognizes climate change as both a health emergency and a major health equity issue. Dr. Earles is guided by an unwavering belief that healing individuals and healing communities are inseparable, and that true health grows strongest where people and communities heal together. I give you my colleague, my sister and friend, Dr. Kathi Earles.
Oh, that was mighty nice. Jeez. Wow.
You're on the mic.
Oh, sorry. Good afternoon. And please, good afternoon. Good afternoon. There we go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am glad to be here. I'd like to share something with you, I think. Yeah. Now, what do I do? I'm scared. I stand here, breathing air my grandmother would not recognize. The sky bruised with smoke and silence. The earth aching beneath our feet. And our children coughing through summers that burn hotter every year. Since the first industrial spark, we've been climbing a fever that now rages at 1.3 degrees Celsius above what was once safe. Now, asthma steals the breath of Black children twice as often. Floods drown the homes of the poor first. Heat strokes take our elders, and our pregnant mothers labor not only with light, but with particulate matter, PM 2.5, that seeps into wombs, weighs down lungs, and rewrites futures before first cries. But here's the truth. We are not powerless, we are powerful. We are the pulse that can shift this story. So do one thing. Plant one tree, ride one bike instead of driving, speak one truth to a neighbor, vote for one leader who values breath over profit. Teach one child that healing the planet is healing ourselves, because we are just 1 degree away from irreversible harm, and yet 1 act away from turning the tide. Mm-hmm.
Do you need to go to the first slide?
Yeah, the third one. Thank you.
It's this red one. So tell me where it is.
There we go. Right there. Thank you. And then okay. There we go. You all are so patient. I appreciate you. Thank you. Full transparency. I've got 2 confessions to make. The first one is I'm not exactly, IT is not really, just in case you couldn't tell. The second one is that video that you just saw. I have to admit to you that I was a bit of a climate change denier prior to being a part of the fellowship, largely because I did not understand the science behind it. And frankly, it made no sense to me. And so if I didn't understand it, in my mind, how could it exist? And then I took this fellowship and I learned all about the science, a lot of it. And it started to all become clear to me and make sense to me. And I got to the point where I needed to share it because I don't think I'm the only one who was a denier. So just in case we have just a few in here who are a little bit on the fence, we're going to go through the science first. So greenhouse gas effects, that was my biggest thing. I didn't understand what a greenhouse gas was. We didn't learn that in medical school. There's no greenhouse gases. So it was a new thing for me. But if you look at that picture up there, we see the sun, right? And the sun's rays can take about 4 different paths. And the first, all the way on my right, is they bounce back into space and never make it into the Earth's surface. Then another one is that the heat is actually absorbed by the surface, right? That's the one that we feel that creates the heat that we have on a regular basis. And then the other, the red ray, can take 2 different paths. One of the paths is that it actually is reflected back from the Earth's surface. And then it can either go back out to space or it can become trapped. And the reason it gets trapped is because of these greenhouse gases. So now the question is, we've always had greenhouse gases, so why is it getting trapped now? We didn't have as much as we did 200 years ago. And so what's happening is when these rays get stuck by these greenhouse gases, it pretty much changes the weather, right? Keeps in heat in places where there shouldn't be heat. That's why we've seen storms and hurricanes and tornadoes in places that we don't usually see them, in times that we don't usually see them. Because the greenhouse gases have essentially changed our weather pattern by trapping in a lot of this heat that was once allowed to escape. Make sense? Okay. So the first greenhouse gas is carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide is interesting because it's the bulk of the greenhouse gases, but it doesn't have quite as much strength as some of the other gases. So the main source of carbon dioxide, one of them is us. And the other one is fossil fuel. So that's another thing I didn't understand. I was like, what's a fossil fuel? Well, deep beneath the Earth's surface, way deep, hundreds of years of pressure on dead animals, dead vegetation. That's our carbon source. And we use that for electricity, for power, for factories. Right? Previously, though, the result of using that carbon is carbon dioxide. And we had plenty of plants that absorb that, right? But things have changed a little bit. The Amazon rainforest is one of our biggest sites of carbon dioxide absorption. However, what has happened over time is that much of that vegetation, much of the trees have been destroyed in the Amazon rainforest. 17% have been destroyed. And now mind you, this is the major source. 17%. They've done some research looking at how much of the Amazon rainforest can we destroy before there's no point of return. 20%. We're at 17%. Okay. Methane. That's another one of the greenhouse gases. And methane's interesting because it's in a smaller quantity, way smaller than carbon dioxide. But it is extremely powerful as a greenhouse gas. Methane comes from our landfills, from our fermentation. It can come from way beneath the Earth's surface. In landfills, anaerobic organisms will eat the paper, the dead animals, the vegetation in our landfills. And as a result, they produce methane. The methane can then seep up to the Earth's surface and become a part of the greenhouse gas. Or that methane can slip into the water supply, which is what has happened in some areas. Cashmere Gardens. Cashmere Gardens is a low-interest homes in Houston, Texas, right next to an abandoned factory. In this abandoned factory, they were leaking methane into the water. The cancer prevalence in Cashmere Gardens, 42%. Cancer prevalence in all of Houston, 6%. So methane was not only a very strong and hazardous greenhouse gas, but also a carcinogen in the water supply. And then there's nitrous oxide. So nitrous oxide comes from fertilizer, from manure, from industrial processes. But the thing about nitrous oxide, which is interesting, is that it has the ability to poke holes through the ozone. So it's not only a greenhouse gas, but it makes holes, making things even worse. And then there's fluorinated gases. So fluorinated gases come from aerosols, refrigeration. We use them to keep things cold, right? Two different types, carbon, fluorine, and chlorine. And then we have our hydrofluorocarbons, which are a little bit less ominous, but still, they form the greenhouse gases as well. This too pokes hole in the ozone layer. So now we have two gases that are a part of the greenhouse gases, but they also damage the ozone layer. And then finally there is particulate matter. So particulate matter is the one that we can pretty much see, exhaust from our vehicles, right? We inhale it. It lodges in our lungs, causes respiratory illness. Another place we can also see it is the wildfire. California, recently. After that, we had an increase in asthmatic episodes in that population that was impacted, respiratory illness, coughing from that particulate matter. So particulate matter causes health issues in large quantities, as well as becoming a greenhouse gas and keeping those sun rays close to the earth and climate warming. So here you can see on the left, this is what once was. We had a nice little balance between the rays coming in and the rays going out. So we kind of maintained a relatively healthy temperature. But now we have a lot of greenhouse gases that we have produced. And they trap the heat into that layer, warming up the earth in places that shouldn't be warm, at times that shouldn't be warm, hurricanes, tornadoes, all of this because of the increase in greenhouse gases that are trapped, that we've done. Okay. It make sense? All right. So what is the climate health connection? What's the big deal, right? So what has happened, and I think you all have noticed, or have you noticed, maybe shifting in rainfall. Like we have rain in places that we didn't have before. We have storms in places that we didn't have before. I lived in California for about 10 years, and you all know the song, It Never Rains in California? Am I too old? Yeah. But it honestly didn't rain in Southern California. Now it does. Warming temperatures. Christmas in Atlanta was 70 degrees. We're expecting snow this weekend. But this doesn't impact everybody equally, right? There's a certain kind of marginalization affects low-income communities more so. The important thing about this to me is that it didn't just magically happen. In many ways, it was systematically created by a lot of the policies that have occurred, hundreds of years ago. So this is some of those. The first one, Homestead Act. I'm not going to touch on all of them, but we'll talk about the Homestead Act. Excellent. Maybe I could do that. Uh-oh. All right, so the Homestead Act of 1862. What that did was it was an opportunity to gain land, and to gain land on the west side of the U.S. 160 acres you would be given, or could be given, if you were the head of the household, American citizen, or going to become an American citizen. So the head of the household, who's that back then? A man, right? Okay. So only thing you had to do was live on the property for 5 years and develop the property, preferably plant, grow, agriculture on the property. And then after 5 years, for a very small fee, it was yours. So when we talk about marginalization, if you had to list the things that are pretty much, how do you become not marginalized? Wealth, home ownership, education. Here we have 1862, already something that's been put in place so that certain groups would have not just homes, but land, acres of land. And what happened to that land oftentimes was it was passed down. So now we're talking about generational wealth. And this was created systematically. The next one, let's see, the GI Bill. So the GI Bill was a good idea, right? We have our veterans that are coming home, and we're going to give them an opportunity to either go to school, go to trade school, get a low-interest home loan, welcoming our veterans back. However, everyone didn't benefit from it equally. When we talk about home ownership, for example, you need a loan typically, right? One thing that happened, if we go, let's see. Let me see. One thing that happened with the GI Bill was that black veterans, they would apply for the schools, but there were a whole lot of schools back then where black men were unable to go to. That was one thing. And then they would apply for a home loan, redlining. Anybody heard of redlining? All right, so they had a map, right? And the bank didn't want to loan the money to you if it appeared that there was a risk. And they had identified these areas with red lines that mostly black and brown people lived in and would not give them loans. And when they did give them a loan, sometimes they were predatory kind of lending, high interest rates. So that right there decreased home ownership. And we said one way that we create wealth is with home ownership. So that created a really big disparity for those that had homes, those that were educated, right? Those that had money. Make sense? So my point in all of this is that throughout time, from a historical perspective, marginalization was systematically created by policies that were put in place that preceded all of us here. So I put this up here because I just want us to see what has happened as a result of climate change. And this is just one example. Here we have flooding, right? Flint, Michigan, Jackson, Mississippi, the Hurricane Katrina. Remember that? But everyone was not impacted by Hurricane Katrina the same. Everyone didn't come back after the city was built back up after Hurricane Katrina the same. There was clearly an inequity there. So what is the present day impact right here? We had issues in South Atlanta where we have marginalized communities that have no home ownership. And in those communities has a very large population, right? Population living in typically in apartments, closed-knit apartments with not much canopy, so not many trees, a lot of concrete. In those areas, what we know is the temperature is hotter because you have the concrete. The temperature is hotter there. You don't have any canopies. You have a lot of stores, a lot of places to eat. McDonald's, Burger King, Church's Fried Chicken. But you're hard pressed to have a grocery store. In the area of Atlanta, one grocery store in the neighborhood that I'm talking about here. One grocery store. But there's every fast food option, every wing shop, every place where you can get some hair and get your nails done. But a grocery store, you're hard pressed to find. So in these particular communities, not only are they marginalized from an economic standpoint or from an educational standpoint, but it's hotter. The other thing too is that when these communities want to build a freeway, where do they build the freeway? Next to those type of communities. So not only do you not have access to fresh fruits and vegetables, but you have a lot of exhaust from the cars. So when we talk about climate change, we talk about particulate matter. That's what happens there. Not to say that it doesn't happen everywhere, but in some communities, from a systematic perspective, the environment is more particulate matter. In terms of our youth, all youth are not infected equally as well. So those youth that live in the marginalized communities, going to crowded schools, hot schools, don't have the physical activity. When they do, they're on the concrete. We said before, concrete's hotter. Not as many trees, not as much grass, not as healthy. So here again, we have this disparity that has been systematically created. So the question is, after all of this, right, we agree that it's an issue. What are we going to do about it? Uh-oh. So there's a list of options. Hydroponic garden. Anybody heard of those? Yeah. So I didn't know what it was, right? So just because Dr. Burns might not know what it is, I'll explain. So the hydroponic garden, instead of having the soil, you have water in which the nutrients just go through it. Now, it was said before that I'm a gardener. Let me be clear. I'm not really that good, right? I like to do it. But if I had a hydroponic garden, I'd be good because they just get nutrients. So this is an option. And in some places in Atlanta, there are public schools that have a, what's the truck container? You know, on the back of the truck, you know what I mean? Thank you, the shipping container. And inside of it, they have built hydroponic gardens. And the kids take care of that. hydroponic garden. And then there's our cool roof and urban green. This is popular in areas such as New York, where they have vegetation up on the roof. Okay? Does a couple things. You can grow plants there, but you also aid in decreasing the carbon dioxide. Imagine if all of us did that. School-based wellness programs to talk to the kids about climate warming, about what we can do to be a part of the progress, to be a part of the solution. Other things that can be done, health surveys. Let's suppose you're in an organization and you go out to talk to the community. Suppose you had something to hand to the community to get an idea of where they were in terms of climate change. Where do they live? How are they impacted? And what can be done to change that tide? Local government collaboration. Some individuals in our government understand it completely. A lot don't. And they might not unless we become a part of the process. Right? Talking about it, educating, showing up. And then providing access to resources. Green prescriptions. This is one thing that physicians are having. So what it is it's pretty much that. It's a green prescription that, depending upon where the patient and the family live, it can give ideas for where they can get fresh fruits and vegetables. And oftentimes when we think of fresh fruits and vegetables, we think that it's going to be an astronomical cost. But part of the whole green prescription is that you're giving them places where it's affordable, not just affordable, but accessible as well. Health heat safety tips. What do you do? What do you tell people to do when it's 110 degrees outside and they're living in some type of marginalized home without air conditioning? What do you tell them? There are cooling centers. Provide a map with the cooling centers. This is where they are. Right? Safe pregnancy guidelines. There's information about that as well. Provide N95 masks. Hydration plan. Emergency medical kit instructions. And a heat safety plan. My point in all of this is that we know it exists, right? We're in agreement about that, are we? If you could think of one thing, big or small, that you could do to help with the issue that we're having, think about what it would be. Just one thing. And oftentimes when we say one thing, we're thinking about something that's really grand, right? I'm going to start an organization and I'm going to enlist 1,500 people. And by the end of the week, we would have brought down the CO2 level by 50%. We can start small and achievable and make a difference all at the same time. Gabriel Andrews, 9-year-old little boy who would walk to the school bus every day in the morning, right? His mother used to take him, but he said he's a big boy. He wanted to walk by himself. So his mother would stand at the door and watch him walk the half a block to the school bus. Half a block. It's raining on this particular day. This was in, let's say, Flint, Michigan. It was raining, and it was raining very hard. But she let him walk, and she's looking at him. All of a sudden, the rain picked up. It's pouring. He was swept up by the water. And he was found an hour and a half later, about a half a block away. And he was dead. That's what we're talking about here. This is an extreme case, but unfortunately, it's not that uncommon. I mention this because it's imperative that we all join in the process, in doing something, joining an organization that's doing something to combat climate change, educating your friends and your family about climate change, going to your church, talking to them about climate change and what we can do about it. Treat the earth well. It was not given to you by our parents. It was loaned to us by our children. It was loaned to us by people like Gabriel. Yeah. So I ask you here, what's one thing? Give me one thing. And this is now the call and response part. One thing that you can think of, that you can commit to doing. Maybe just, please. Excuse me?
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree, yeah. Plant a tree. Cycling. Recycling, okay, I'm sorry. But cycling too. Yeah. Cycling and plant a tree. I had an opportunity to go to Denmark years ago. Cycling, you get hit by a bicycle, but their emissions are much lower than ours are. But cycling, with the helmet though, right? Okay. Plant a tree. Anybody else?
Consume less and repair things.
Wait a minute, say it again.
Consume fewer items and repair the things you have.
Repair the things that you have. Now, what do you think that'll do? I'm just asking. I'm asking for the ones who don't know. Go ahead.
That would reduce a lot of matter in our landfills.
Yeah. Because we throw things away easily, especially with Amazon. We just throw it away and order something else. But recycling, okay, trying to decrease our own carbon footprint. So these are doable things, right? Anybody else? Stop wasting water. And when you say wasting water, like, what do you mean? Just
Sometimes you go to the bathroom and we turn the water off and you walk over somewhere else where the pot of water is still running.
yeah, all the time. Have you ever forgotten about it and then you come? Yeah. Good. Yes.
Taking public transit.
Taking public transit. Yeah, that's a big one. Imagine what we could do if we just cut down on our transportation just a little bit as an individual and took public transportation. What about a hybrid vehicle? And I'm not suggesting everybody go out and buy a new car. But for your next one, maybe you go hybrid. Oh, I see here. Go ahead.
Next Wednesday and Thursday, Earth Advocacy Day is going on, and so me and some other U.S. students, we're going up to the Capitol to lobby in relation to utility rates, not hiking those for the consumer, and AI data centers to be impacted with that, and there's actually 7 sign-ups left for that.
Okay, so what's the thing about the AI centers? Tell me.
I haven't read the bill yet.
Okay.
It's the bill we're in favor of it because it's deterrence for AI data centers because of the implications they have on communities and the local environment.
Yes,
Well, it's passed to the consumer. It's making the expenses
have been passed to the consumer, the AI, yeah.
instead of to the corporation.
Okay. But the use of AI is like, that uses up a whole bunch of energy, stuff that we were talking about. Yeah, and water, yeah. Yeah, Chat GPT. Yeah, the devil.
I didn't realize I would get a mic for this. It's a little intimidating. But I think it's really important for us to remember, I mean, just to the point of AI, we're seeing this like surge in AI usage, and even in, especially at our university, it's clearly very been pushed as an effort of, technology and like even through our education. But I think it's really important to remember like the environmental impacts it has. I mean, just like 2025 alone, there was a significant study that showed it was just AI data centers and cooling down those supercomputers used about upwards of 300 to 750 something tons fresh water, which is equal to the global bottled water industry in just a single year of AI usage. And beyond the sustainability impacts, it's truly, I think, a death of intellectualism as we continue to use AI and not really using our own brains. Like, the brain is a muscle and you need to use it. So I encourage everyone to really see AI as only a tool one uses out of like real necessity or like for ease of research perhaps, but anything else, like, just please avoid using AI if you can. And I think to the point that the person before me pointed out, I think beyond personal responsibility, I think we need to look upwards in this system. This is all a system, and most of these impacts that we see on the people are enforced by corporate interests and billionaires, frankly. So we need to put pressure on corporations, and divestment is so important when it comes to bigger institutions like even UF, like putting pressure on them to divest from big gas oil companies that are clearly beyond the sustainability impacts, are impacting like people from the global south to an extent where people are getting displaced, and it's horrendous. Like, people are dying from this.
Absolutely, yeah. AI is it can be addictive. I'm not speaking on behalf of myself, but that's. Yes.
It's okay. I would say focus on building programs or initiatives. But she has to speak so people can hear her. Community development as well. I'll say my next point is gentrification. So de-gentrifying neighborhood, as you made in one of your first points. It might be a.
I'm sorry, I can't. I'm having trouble hearing. Thank you.
Okay, I got you. I would say my point to relate to your first point that you made, gentrification. So de-gentrifying neighborhoods and communities as well. So building programs or initiatives that focus on community development to where it's reducing poverty and focus on the increasing equity. So now that I'm creating programs, or I'm giving funding to certain communities, or I'm employing educational systems, or even places like maybe, I don't know, tropical smoothie, something that's healthy, rather than a liquor store, or a black business rather than a club, and then that will touch on the healthcare as well as education. So it's multifaceted. So you will touch in multiple areas, and you will improve multiple issues that I guess follows under social inequality. So you improve the healthcare system as well as the home as well as education. So you just really created that accessibility and equity for all people to thrive. And I think that's basically it. I would just say thinking de-gentrifying neighborhoods and communities by focusing on community development.
That's huge. That is huge. Yeah. Go ahead.
I would just say, in general, holding the people around you accountable. Because I feel like it's easy to apply things to yourself.
Hello? Oh.
Go ahead. You're good.
I'd say holding the people around you accountable, because it's easy to be like, okay, like, yes, I can walk. I can, like, all these small things, like I can turn off the water. But sometimes when you see people around you doing these things, it's like harder to step up and tell them, maybe you should do this. Maybe we should, take the bus. So I'd say holding people accountable, and you should just start with like your friends and your family first.
Sure. I think if we started with just one friend, that alone would make a difference. Thank you.
How do you avoid not being preaching to the chorus? When we know that we are now going in a very, very backlash from the top down, and then you were a person who thought that this was not a problem.
Right.
So you had that experience.
You had to bring that up.
But I think that there is when we see all this research, what we see now, even from the Davos conference in Switzerland, United States is going to a straightforward crash in relationship to this, renouncing to all the international organizations, and we are even afraid of talking about it.
Right.
Yeah. So how do you?
I would say carefully. I have to watch how I express things, right? You say something like health disparity, and people are upset. So what I try to do is give the history of it. So if you see how it happens, then it's not like I'm calling you out. A lot of this occurred before we were born. It was systematically created. But I have to be very careful about some of the things I say, which is corporations, the automobile manufacturers, all of that. They don't want to hear about this because you're taking money out. So yeah, it's a really delicate dance. But we got to do it. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello. Thank you for the lecture. Just a couple months ago, there was another speaker here that his book name was "We're Eating the Earth." And his view on it was the biggest issue with climate change actually is agriculture. And yes, all of us can do one thing here and there between recycling or public transportation and everything that was said, but so much is actually the food choices that we have, that we make. And then he would have stated, like, just saying, like, the beef, and again, he said, like, myself, like he was saying myself, I stopped eating beef and I missed it a lot, but that was part of the solution, because, like, we talk about the Amazon deforestation, and that's for cattle, like, not even for that, for soy.
Yeah.
That is for feeding animals, not even the, the population that is in need because of the health disparities. So also related to health disparities, and just as you've mentioned with the food deserts that we have, I remember in one where I used to live, there was a whole mess because they didn't want another Wawa in their rich neighborhood, but we don't have the marginalized community advocating to say we don't want another KFC or we don't want another Burger King. So again, like, it's also not access to the food, the right food, but also the choices that we make, knowing that the biggest, and again, like, I don't remember the numbers, but he was saying how millions of acreage is used for feeding or for cattle, and that it comes to be not that our act is not going to make a difference, but he's saying, like, yes, we can plant the tree, but if we don't change the way that we eat, and if the agriculture is not changed, the problem, it's not going to go away. So I just asking because it didn't show much about agriculture, and to be shown that it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest issue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Betty. I mean, I agree with you. Totally. Yeah.
Hi, just to further point to that, I used to live in El Paso, Texas, and if you've ever gone from I-10 going out toward west, you'll notice how massive the desert is. You'll go to the desert 6, 7, 8 hours, days really, if you think about it all the way through, even though it's separate deserts. And a lot of people don't know that desert did not exist 150 years ago. That desert was completely made by oversaturation of cattle and the overgrazing of the area. So it used to be an entire grassland, a plateau. It's completely desert now, full of foreign invasive plants. The tumbleweeds are invasive. They're European. And so the entire climate has changed. There's huge particulate matter within the air. If you go out there, they'll tell you, oh, you'll get valley fever. It's not valley fever. It's caused by allergens from foreign plants and a massive amount of dust, blowing dust. And so the dust is heating that area. It's heating parts of Texas, heating parts of New Mexico, and all over in Arizona, and there, I mean, if you look at it now, they're 15 degrees hotter than they were even 20, 25 years ago. And a lot of people don't realize how even though it's happening over there, it's affecting over here as well, because all of that rain, which would be going there, is not going there.
Yeah.
It's coming over here. And so that's part of it. I mean, and even though there's overgrazing, you go out there, there's still massive amounts of cattle that are there. They're not eating any food. There's nothing to eat, but they still exist. So when you eat beef, you are actively affecting the climate of this country. And if you don't make choices to have something, you know, and I think a lot of people think, well, that decision, that they try to rationalize it away. All decisions you make are real in this world, and they really affect the lived lives of people there. They affect whether children get asthma in Texas, right? They affect whether people can go to school and be healthy. So every decision you make affects someone. So something to think about.
The other thing too is like you mentioned beef, right? So I know some beef lovers. So my thing is, suppose you just cut it down. If it's difficult for you to stop, you know, you like but if we just decrease the amount, that right there I think would help. Because I think what we want to do is you want some doable solutions. Some folks who are big red meat eaters are not going to suddenly do away with it. But if we all reduced it a little bit, imagine the impact that that would make. Yeah. I appreciate you all's time, your attention, your conversation, and your commitment to doing one thing. And it was mentioned that I'm preaching to the choir. I agree with you. So how about we do two things? And we also make it a point to have someone who's not in the choir do one thing. How about that? I appreciate you all. Thank you. Thank you. Take this one? Oh.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Appreciate you.
Thank you. All right. Everyone, we are transitioning now to thanking everybody for coming, thanking everybody for being so attentive to the speaker. If you would like to ask a few more questions, we're going to be moving this party to the O'Neill room upstairs, where we have a reception planned for everyone who would like to stay. Okay, so we'll start making our way that way, and we encourage you to get involved in whatever ways that you can. Do something. Thank you.